Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben, Anderson, happy Thursday to everybody. What's going on over there, Ben? You look very fall today.
Is today the first day of fall, or is that tomorrow?
I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. You just look like it's fall. It's not an insult, just an observation.
I have a long sleeve on, a button up.
Well, that's not abnormal, but usually it's a different look. You've
Yeah,
got
this
like
is a little fallier.
You've got like a hunter kind of thing going.
It is. These are autumnal colors I'm wearing.
Christian looks just like himself.
When is the?
It's always
I have a pretty limited wardrobe.
It's always summer in Christian's
First
world.
day of fall is Sunday, September 22nd, by the way.
So Sunday.
Coming right up. Well, I'm preparing.
Oh, good. It's good to see you. You survived yesterday? Things going well?
Yeah, yesterday was relatively easy. You?
Oh, yeah. I thought it was fun to do a deep dive, so to speak, into the hockey. That's starting what preseason starts on Sunday.
Yes. First game Sunday.
And we're expecting an announcement as far as how to watch said game coming up this week. If didn't somebody say something about that yesterday?
Well, actually, there was some news this morning, and you can find it at KSLSports.com. They have announced there was Jazz Plus. Now there's Utah Hockey Plus, or you can combine them, and it's called SEG Plus. SEG obviously being Smith Entertainment Group. So you can combine them, and you can buy both in a joint package. Now, they actually don't service all of the same areas. I can pull up the maps here shortly, but the Utah Hockey Club map is more robust than is the Jazz Plus.
Where did the whole plus thing start?
Who did that?
I think it was Disney.
Was it Disney that first did Disney Plus?
Because now, whatever, you just hear it's plus. I don't. Is
Everything's
that just
plus
like
means streaming now.
Does that is it?
I think ESPN Plus beat the Disney, right? Isn't ESPN Plus been around forever?
That's probably, yeah, you're right. But, I mean, they're owned by the same,
Sure.
whatever.
But it doesn't mean anything, right? It's not. It's just a fad.
Well,
Yeah.
in the Jazz and Utah Hockey Plus sense, you get more than just the live games. You get all the behind-the-scenes access and access to interviews and whatever. So I think with them, that it makes sense to have the plus because there's more than just the live games.
Plus other things is kind of what they're trying to hint at.
But, like the term GIF or whatever actually stands for something, right?
Yes.
It actually means something. I didn't know if the plus actually, or just something started by Disney.
It's like when we agreed to not regulate, but we're all like, you know what? Every phone should probably have the same charger. We don't need Apple to have a charger and Android to have a charger and then every other device you have. And we are slowly getting to that point. Now, Apple does still have its own charger, but we're getting to that point where we're all recognizing when you see this, it means this. So plus just means the streaming option now.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I just didn't know if it meant something.
I don't think so.
Or if it's just kind of like, oh, that sounds good, so we'll just copy it.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, what do we call it? Jazz streaming? Because streaming actually implies audio too. So plus implies a video aspect, I would.
It does now. It's like Kleenex.
Correct. Band-Aid. Yeah. Metonymy is what that's called.
Is it?
Yeah.
I know it's what you don't want in the intellectual property world. You don't want to be so successful that you lose all
branding
and control over it. Because,
you don't want that. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Well, then you don't make any money off it.
Sure.
Like anybody could use the word Kleenex or whatever. I think that's an example.
Oh, so it goes to public domain.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Where it's so ingrained that you no longer. But I don't know. I could be wrong about that. Maybe Band-Aid still has some protection. I just know it's a thing where it just becomes so common that you lose some control over it.
From Cole Bagley, KSLSports.com. He was on this morning with DJ and PK also. He's got an article out. SEG Plus, which includes a combined 150 plus Jazz and Utah Hockey Club games. It's basically a DVR feature. You can pause it, you can rewind, etc. If you want all of them, it's $175, $174.99 annually. Plus, you get 2 tickets to a Jazz game or a Utah Hockey Club game. Now, the Hockey Club game is single goal view, is what they're calling the obstructed view. You can only see one of the goals, which is the far goal.
Okay.
But $175, I'm not trying to tell you how to spend your money. In all honesty, When I've looked at hockey tickets, that's about what 2 pair of hockey tickets cost anyways.
How much does it cost if I want Locke personally to come to my house to turn it on?
If you tell Locke you'll subscribe to Locked On Jazz, he'll come do that.
He will
He'll just show up.
Like, hey,
You know what we need?
I'm here to help.
Lock Plus. That's when Locke comes to your house.
Boom.
Lock Plus.
Yeah.
Takes you skiing. Delivers the stat of the day. Brings. What's one of his sponsors right now?
The Murdochs.
Well, I mean, what's one of his food sponsors? You still do the store or whatever that's over in Gateway? He brings like food to you.
Okay.
Lock Plus.
Lock Plus. I like that. No, I like the direction that they took the distribution with the Jazz. I do. And they did that at personal expense.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making a lot less, but the distribution is way easier.
Yeah.
Getting K-Jazz is easy. Getting Jazz Plus or now SEG Plus, right? I mean, it's easy. It's easy to do. You can do it. They had made it a priority to make sure that you can consume their product, and that had not been a priority for a while. And I think ultimately that's a really good thing. So I'm eager to see how this turns out. I could complain all day about the nickel and diming of the now online streaming industry.
Yeah.
I find it tedious and not cost saving really over what we previously had. But you can get it. Gone are the days where you just don't have access to it. You can get it.
Yeah. I should add, if you are not a basketball fan and you only want hockey, you can buy the annual Utah Hockey Club Plus for $69.99. Or you can pay monthly, $14.99. So if you don't want basketball, you can just get Utah Hockey Club $69.99. And I suppose, and I expect the inverse will also be true. I think last year was $125 for Jazz games. I don't know what they're going to charge this year.
We have no idea what the Lock Plus price is.
Lock Plus, $1.99. Annually.
Lock's worth more than that. Come on, it's got to be. Got to be talking about like 500 bones. He's coming over to your house.
$500 for Lock
is showing up at your house.
Locke's not doing anything for cheap.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We got to make it worth it.
Comes on our show for free, I think.
It is worth noting, going back to the Utah Hockey Club Plus, it's part of the coverage map is Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona is included. So old Coyotes fans will be able to watch the Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah, the Utah Hockey Club, I'll try and do this off the top of my head, is like, meaning what states it's covering. I'm seeing all of Idaho, all of Montana, all of Wyoming, all of Utah, all of New Mexico, all of Arizona, and I would say half of Nevada?
Which half?
Not Las
The
Vegas.
bad half.
The half
Yeah,
that
the
has
bad half.
literally nothing.
The dirt half.
Which half? The desert half.
Yeah, the bad half.
There's Wendover, and I don't know if there
Well,
are
to be
any
fair-
other
Oh,
cities
there's
in
got
that
to be
area.
Wendover.
Well, to be fair, yeah, it is Wendover, and I think it actually probably gets Reno as well. But obviously, the Las Vegas Hockey Club has rights that you can't jump
I
into.
get it.
And then the Jazz Plus remains half of Idaho, half of Wyoming, all of the state of Utah.
Going down to Arizona, is that just a troll job? It's got to be, right?
I think there are fans who want to watch. And we should add, you can watch these games for free if you are in Utah on Channel 16. Just like K-Jazz. Different channel. It's called Utah 16, but they are also available on broadcast
Over the
TV if you have rabbit ears or digital antenna or whatever. So
It's
there's
out there.
really not an excuse to not be able to watch these games. And I would add, I think, and I'm not selling anything, I'm not getting anything out of this, $70 if you're a hockey fan for a season's worth of games is relatively reasonable. It's pretty cheap for 6 months of content. And I'll be curious what they do behind the scenes. I know they do have a video crew. I'll be curious how much behind the scenes content they have, how much plus content we're getting.
Well, ESPN Plus, even charging 50 cents a month is ludicrous. So
You know what? I watched 2 outs of a Yankees-Mariners game last night on my ESPN Plus, which is the first time I've turned it on since I watched Utah and BYU in the opening week of the season. So I'm getting my money's worth.
you just get the dregs of events.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't
Fourth
believe-
inning Yankees-Mariners game. I mean, the Yankees clinched. I guess it was technically a real game, but there's not a lot. It's pretty rough.
rough.
ESPN minus. It's more like it.
Yes.
Yeah. You're dumber for watching it.
I just wish, I wish the consumer, I mean, if we want to broaden this conversation out, I wish the consumer was getting more of a break with this transition to wherever we're going. Because the cable packaging or whatever was really great for the networks. It was really great. That was the whole complaint about it, right? Why am I paying for Enter channel here when I don't watch it? You know, why am I paying for Lifetime or the Food Network or whatever when all I'm watching is this? You know, for the the Lifetime viewer that never flips past ESPN ever, always had the complaint, like, that's the most expensive channel on my package. Why I don't even watch it? Why am I doing this? That was always the thing, right? But the networks loved it because everybody was paying for their programming, regardless of whether they watched it or not, which was the brilliance of the model, really. Now, if you're going to break that model and go to something else, in theory, it should be better for the consumer. That's how you undercut the other model.
Right. Everyone liked the idea of a la mode, right?
Yes.
A la carte. Excuse me, not a la mode. That's with ice cream. I like that. Lock Plus with ice cream. Lock Plus, a la mode.
But part of the...
A la carte, pardon me.
But part of the problem with this thing is that with the conversion to these streaming platforms, and I wish them to be successful, but the problem is you think like, okay, well, I'm going to farm the dedicated Jazz fan and not, or Utah Hockey Club fan, or in the least successful example, you're a Los Angeles Clipper fan. And you think like, okay, we're going to replace, this income with your dedicated Jazz fan. The problem is you're now putting a monetary price on just how dedicated of a Jazz fan that you are. And some people are just not going to do it because it's not easy and it's going to cost them more money. I know people that got tired of switching and had a Dish Network, dedicated Jazz fans. Mm-hmm. And when it fell off the Dish Network and they were tired of, they'd switched twice before and they're like, you know what? Well, I guess I'm just not watching Jazz games.
Yeah.
And they didn't, And now that it's back on K-Jazz, the beauty thing, they're right back to watching every Jazz game. But does that make any sense? You're saying like, well, how dedicated are you? As opposed to if you have the broad, distribution, you're selling to everybody in the case of the regional sports networks where it's like you're paying for it whether you like it or not. I mean, it seems like it's the worst of both worlds. The consumer is not getting any sort of break. In fact, it's becoming more complicated. And the networks have to invest incredible amounts of money in these new platforms and stuff where they have to try and recoup from somewhere, and it's always the fans who fit the bill because that's the point. I mean, it's a business, right? So I don't know. It's just broken. It feels broken to me. I'm glad you can watch it, but it feels broken to me.
The example of this is MLS, which, we used to carry the games on KSL TV. You could go on the KSL app and tune in for free and watch the games. It was a great option. I would tune in. I would throw them on. Nothing else going on. Last night would have been a perfect example.
You can always watch it.
I'm going to throw it on. It's on KSL. It's on the app. Whatever. You have Roku. You have Apple TV. You have TV. Whatever. You can find a way to watch it. It goes to Apple Plus.
It's gone.
It's gone, and people will just never accidentally find it.
No, that's really a hard part. I mean, that's something
that one's hidden from people.
And that's something college football will battle because there's so many people who, if like the Pac-12 is going to go exclusively to Apple, the problem is you just fall off the map to the person who's just sitting on their couch eating Cheetos and flipping around the games, which I've been a million times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
has real value.
Right. And if I'm not in the Pac-12 footprint, say a dedicated fan, and I'm flipping around, and Pac-12 is not part of my smorgasbord, well, I'm just not going to watch it. That game doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, Major League Soccer, I've said this, is it's interesting because they can read the direction of which way the wind is blowing. They're the wrong league to prove the concept.
Correct.
They're just not the league to do it. They should be in the exposure phase still, where they're just getting in front of everybody that they possibly can. They should have been bending over backwards and thanking KSL for airing their product in such an accessible fashion because they need to get in front of
everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's not yet a proven concept.
The NFL can take Thursday to Amazon, and you know what? It's not going to be that controversial, and Amazon's going to get a huge boon out of it.
Yeah.
because people will sign up for Amazon to follow the NFL. That's not Major League Soccer. I mean, I bet they got some, and they got more than they probably should have because of Messi, but it's still, I mean, how many, I don't know, Red Bulls games are you flipping by, Ben?
Right. No, and the other advantage the NFL had on top of being the NFL, and I'm sure everyone who runs the MLS is scoffing at the idea that we're even talking about the two leagues because they're not pretending they're the same, but a lot of people have Amazon Prime because you have Amazon, the shipping service.
Yep.
You know, like you do have it already. It was already kind of built into your lifestyle. And this was as much a tease to say, hey, maybe you've never looked at our streaming service. Like you already have it. Believe it or not, you're already paying for it. Why don't you tune it on your Apple TV? You'll be surprised you actually have it. Tune it on your Roku. You'll be surprised you actually have it and it works well. Now here's the NFL game as well, and then you're there, and they've got all the advertising.
And while you're there, check out the Lord of the Rings prequel.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now they're advertising everything else to you, which, by the way, is how sports have worked for a long time. The Miller Group, for a long time, talked about, hey, having the Utah Jazz was great because we could advertise our car dealerships the second you got inside.
I don't know why the World Series is the best example of this to me, but it just stands out in my brain. Watching the World Series and seeing what Fox's fall lineup is going to be.
What their Halloween special episode
obnoxious.
is going to be.
Oh, they find so many ways to sandwich it in. It's so obnoxious.
I have very distinct nostalgic memories of watching the World Series, probably the Yankees, and like bats flying out of the Chiron in the corner, being like, there's a Halloween episode coming up of whatever their show was in 2004. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that because that is good advertising, but it's exactly what you're talking about.
I love the dog shows they're trying to get off the ground. Then you go back to these historic World Series and like the announcers midway through are talking about Herman's head or something like that. Yeah,
right.
like
hanging with
just
Mr.
these
Cooper.
garbage shows. And you're like, and Randy Johnson comes in to relieve. Oh my gosh, this fall, don't miss Bernie Mac's latest, whatever.
Rest in peace.
Oh, yeah, he's passed, huh?
But at the time, you're right. What you're talking about was accurate.
I mean, he had about 3 or 4 relaunch sitcoms, didn't he?
Yeah, at least. No, you're exactly right. It's a great advertising tool. It's hard when it's so far away, which Apple TV feels so far away, Apple TV Plus, to get the MLS games.
Oh, yeah, you have to do a sub package even to get the MLS games.
Do you have them, Christian? What are the prices for Utah Jazz Plus?
So Jazz Plus is going to be $125 annual, $20 monthly, and then $5 for a single game. So really looking at the combined package, Jazz and Hockey Club Plus for $175.
Okay.
Seems like a pretty good deal.
This was last year's price. Is that updated? Because I see the article at KSLSports.com that I wrote, and this is from last year. So maybe you're right. I don't have the new email or anything.
By the way, I've always loved the concept of just a $5 one-off game.
With your friends.
Whatever.
Where's the game?
I love that
I don't have it. Can we throw it on? Yeah,
let's
throw
just
it on.
grab it.
Yeah. Yeah, you throw it on, I'll buy the food. You buy the game. We'll watch the game. I didn't have it otherwise. But yeah, good time to watch it. I'm totally with you.
So we'll see how this goes. But hockey, preseason starts on Sunday, so we're going to be able to watch these things coming up pretty darn soon. And like I said yesterday, it was fun to do the hockey in the middle of the show and get to know a little bit better the players, the coach. Although we had Bear in studio, love that guy already right off the bat.
A farmer.
Very, very cut from the. And not to compare a current coach to, of course, a local legend, but seemed to be cut from a similar cloth as Jerry. Old school, if you will. And yeah, he goes back to the farm in the offseason. You kidding?
Real man. That's who I want leading my hockey club.
Exactly.
Tough guy, but nice. Very sweet.
We didn't ask him what his crop was, did we?
He said he had everything. He's got tractors and he's got something like 200 head of cattle or something. Like, it's a real farm. It's a full-on functioning farm. This is not Robert Redford posing for GQ with a pitchfork in his hand and a perfect pair of jeans.
He's out there slaughtering cattle?
Probably. Fresh bacon.
Coach comes in covered in blood?
Covered in blood.
He should film that for his team.
That's what I want from Utah Hockey Club Plus, is how to butcher 30 head of cattle.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes with Bear.
Imagine the opportunity. Yeah, just walking out covered in blood. That's when you give your pregame speech, and you'll air it for the team later.
That's great. I love it.
would you embellish? Like instead of like this is cow's blood, it's like I just went into a room with 15 desperados.
I guess nobody knows.
Top 3 stories of the day, KSLSports.com coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you to nominate the U Sports Volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination, KSLSports.com/contest, and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Time for the top 3 stories of the day. KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. 2 locations, one on Winchester Street across from Fashion Place Mall, the other at Traverse Mountain in Lehigh. Christian, where are we starting today?
Number 1, does Las Vegas know something that we don't?
Probably, but the line just keeps flying all over the place. For a while, it was Utah, as high as -2.5. Meaning Utah was favored by 2.5 points. Now it's Oklahoma State, is favored in this game. And a lot of people think it has to do with the health of Cam Rising.
What are you implied that, like, yes, they know. So, like, who in Vegas? Again, I always get at this. Like, the Wizard, it has a camera in practice for the Utes. And, like, what is that? I'll tell you what it means is that people are betting on Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
The public is betting on Oklahoma State. That is why the line is moving.
So the theory for these degenerates is that there is some intern at Utah practice who knows something, who talks to a bookie or whatever, a line setter, the Wizard, as you like to call them, and says, he's not going to play. Cam's not going to play. And immediately Vegas says, okay, we're going to flip this line. And if we flip this line, it'll make more people bet. But we have a little bit of inside info, and that's causing these lines to change
But that would imply
radically.
that the Wizard is trying to be accurate in predicting the game. That's not what it's trying to do.
Job.
That's not their job. They're trying to split the money evenly so they make the 10% right off the top. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So if they're moving a line, it's to incentivize people to bet on Utah. And the people that would quote-unquote know something, the sharp bettors, they don't bet until the very end. So I don't think it implies anybody knows anything other than for some reason the public is all betting on Oklahoma State. And they're trying to incentivize the Ute bettors to get out and bet on the game. That is their whole purpose in life. So I don't know. Like, who would know something? Like, I don't buy somebody leaked something to a line setter. That's not really how it works either. Everybody's betting on Oklahoma State. Now you can say, does the public now doubt that Cam Rising is going to play or something like that? Maybe, but it's not coming from some mole inside the dang program. Maybe people are done buying Witt's BS because he's lied to broadcasters right up until kickoff about who's going to play at quarterback. So maybe that's incentivizing it. But don't buy into this somebody's leaking something or somebody knows something. That's not how it works.
I am more focused on Oklahoma State giving up 650 yards of offense to Arkansas in Game 2. And most of it to a familiar face in Jaquindon Jackson, who had 3 touchdowns and had to have close to 200 yards on the ground. He was pretty unstoppable, and then in true Arkansas fashion, they decided, what if we make every mistake in the second half, including fumbling the ball, horrible interceptions, pick sixes going the other direction. So if Utah, it's kind of, we talked about it yesterday, and I think it's accurate. If Utah avoids beating itself, it should be fine. They can win this game. If Utah doesn't get to this point where they're overthinking it, overrating Oklahoma State, and saying, yeah, we got to sell out to stop Ollie Gordon, and forgetting that there is a team that can pass the ball, Utah could find themselves in trouble. I think if Utah just goes in and plays solid and plays to the ability that they have already shown this year, like in the first quarter against Baylor, they should be just fine in this game.
Man, I would say just fine, no. I mean, I think Oklahoma State's better than that, and they're playing at home. I think if Utah is one of those games where their defense can't stop them, they're in real trouble. Like, I mentioned the Oregon-Mariota game the other day, but, I mean, there's been other ways. Like, think Kadeem Carey with Arizona. Like, those types of – those rare nights where the Utah defense just doesn't have it. I think that could be rough. And if Oklahoma State finds a run game and passes the ball as dynamically as they have so far this season, well, they could do that. So the Utah would not be just fine in that case. And I don't know, describe beat itself. Like, are you talking turnovers? I mean, because if they don't run the ball effectively, I think it could be a long night, Cam Rising or no.
There
honestly.
should not be a reason Utah doesn't run the ball well against Oklahoma State.
And the way they've given up the run so far. Right.
Yes. Nothing Oklahoma State has shown leads you to believe that Utah shouldn't be able to just run the ball down their throat.
But you would feel a lot better about that prediction if we were talking about Zach Moss.
Absolutely.
So that still lingers, right?
But I believe quite a bit in what Mekhi Bernard has done over the last 2 games.
He's been really good.
Really good.
And again, I'm personally cheering for the guy.
Yeah. So I don't think that's a huge fear. I don't think they're going to get after Cam Rising. Like, I don't think they're going to make his life terribly difficult. So as long as Cam, isn't doing things he shouldn't be doing, which for the most part he doesn't, I think Utah honestly should be fine. Now, Utah needs to be careful a little bit with the passing game. And look, I mean, where I would quibble with you is that you mentioned Nikhil and Marcus Mariota, right? In the big games that they had against Utah. Oklahoma State does not have that guy. Now, if you want to say Ollie Gordon has been that guy, you're right, he has been that guy. He's not been that guy this year. And we don't know why.
Right.
So if he does have this breakout, maybe that's the guy you got to worry about. He hasn't been that guy against anybody. It wasn't that guy against South Dakota State. He wasn't that guy against Tulsa. And he certainly wasn't that guy against Arkansas. Because their offensive line is really bad.
I get you.
It's really bad.
My point was really more about those rare games where Utah's defense is really ineffective rather than getting dominated by one player. But I see your point.
I do think the game against Utah State was probably a pretty good wake-up call, that you don't roll out of bed and are good just because you're Utah. You've got to actually play well.
So, but I don't think that the Wizard knows something that somebody else doesn't. But this is why coaches are paranoid, by the way, is this type of thing, because coaches don't know how it works either.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Number 2, keys for BYU against Kansas State.
Well, it starts with Avery Johnson.
I think that's the whole key.
But that's difficult. If you haven't watched Kansas State yet,
that guy flies.
He is like, imagine if the idealized version of Travis Wilson came to life. The theoretical, what's the quarterback thing that he went to? What's the
Elite 11?
Elite 11, where everyone was like, Utah's got a guy. Like, imagine big, tall, flowing hair kid.
He's 6'5",
who can run and also really deliver the ball. Like, I'm not going to pretend he's Josh Allen.
He's not. That's how you beat him, is you make him one-dimensional. But the hardest, he's the fastest guy on the team by like a lot.
Yeah, and not just like straight line where Travis Wilson was straight line. Like, he is really shifty.
He can fly.
He is really shifty.
Did you hear Matt Wells talking about him yesterday? Like, that's what he said. He's like, I've had quarterbacks who can be dual threat and who can move. This guy can fly. He's a home run hitter. That's how he described him.
This is probably too much, but like, watching him, it's almost Christian McCaffrey-esque. Like, he is so fast. It's crazy how shifty and fast he is.
Make him a thrower, because he's less dynamic throwing the ball, I assure you.
And he's still okay. He's still a pretty good passer, and he showed that against Arizona. He kind of fully realized what he could do as a passer against Arizona. 14 of 23. Again, not crazy. He didn't have to. They do prefer to run the ball, but he did have 2 touchdowns through the air. And he has 6 touchdowns and only 1 interception on the season. So he also doesn't make stupid throws.
He's very much Taysom Hill-esque. Not in the way he runs per se, but that the way to stop Taysom is you needed to make him throw it. And he wasn't inept at throwing it, but he was a lot better. He was a lot easier to stop throwing it than he was running it.
I think that's accurate. So I think you got to be really disciplined on the option, on run-pass option. You've got a lot of things to worry about. BYU's got to be really, really disciplined on their game plan, and you're probably going to have Jack Kelly spy him the whole game, because he's the only one who's probably athletic enough to stick with him. It's going to be a really hard game. He's really, really dynamic. He has the chance by himself to beat you. He's that good.
Maybe Kelly Olynyk like eye gouge in the pile or something.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever you got to do.
Yeah. Tyler Batty.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't we see that? Oh, the elbow.
Didn't we see Stone Cold Stunner? I don't care.
Wasn't it a couple years ago? Was it a Utah against somebody that put out the quarterback because of an eye gouge?
Yeah, whatever you got to do. This kid's really good. In fact, dangerous enough that if you don't beat him this year, you may never beat him during his college career.
Christian was on the line in high school. How many times did you go to the eye gouge? I would have done it like every other play.
Spinning was my
That was your
first
thing.
go-to.
Okay.
Yeah. And if that didn't work, then I'd say, okay, I'll blind you.
Then
I'll
you
blind you.
line up the eye gouge.
It works.
You
Whatever
got to
works.
do whatever you got to do.
They're good. And then on top of it, they've got playmakers outside of it. They've got playmakers at receiver. They've got playmakers on special teams. They're really dangerous.
Yeah.
But they also absolutely no-showed against Tulane and are strange. So they're a little up and down. I wonder if they don't travel particularly well because they didn't travel well to Tulane and needed a lot of help to win that game and then absolutely smoked Arizona.
What's next?
Number 3, local 5-star receiver Jerome Miles picked USC over Utah.
He's dead to me. Never heard of him. Don't know who you're talking about. No, he even did the thing. He picked up the Utah hat and then put it down and picked up the USC hat.
And by the way, the people who get bent about that, get over it. It's hilarious.
Oh,
He's
and
a
everyone's
young
done it for
person.
people who
Like,
picked Utah
it's-
over
I watched
other schools.
Kevin Jones, who ended up being a Virginia Tech running back. He was from Pennsylvania. He showed up to his press conference in a Penn State uniform and then said, I'm here to make my decision, and then took off the Penn State uniform.
And some of this news had broken like early yesterday morning that's what he was going to pick. So I don't think it actually shocked people all that much when he was sitting down at the table. Kind of seemed like the news was already out. But for several months, this was the guy who a lot of Utah people were talking about, like their first 5-star commit. And not only is it a 5-star commit, it's a 5-star commit at a position Utah does not traditionally have great talent at wide receiver. And they thought they had him. We'll have to talk to Steve Bartle tomorrow and figure out exactly what the backstory here is. One of the quotes I saw from the young man was that USC made my family very comfortable.
I'm sure
Not
they did.
feel comfortable, made them comfortable, meaning they're probably set financially for a while. Which is just the game. And you know what? Be nice to him because he might hit the transfer portal in 6 months.
Listen, take NIL out of this for a second because we don't know. And I am no fan of Stinkin' Riley. But if you're a receiver, Ben, and there's one school that doesn't use receivers, and there's one school that throws the ball 45 times a game, I mean, honestly, it's a no-brainer. I mean, if this guy thinks that, or this kid, I should say, because he still is, thinks that he has potential to be an NFL receiver, I mean, what are you going to do, Ben? You're not picking Utah either.
I want to show off my blocking skills.
And it's not even a slight to Utah.
No, it wins.
Because it's just not their style of play. And it's certainly, with the emergence of the Utah tight end, it's even further not their style of play.
Yeah, you got to pick your poison as a team. You got to pick your poison as a team. And Utah has picked their poison. And guess what? It landed them, who's it, Carson Ryan? Like, they are bringing in tight ends as a result. Kids are coming to Utah as a result. Brant Keithy came back to Utah.
And they just haven't had a really dynamic receiver in a long time because it's just not the point.
The way they play.
It's not the point of the offense. It's not.
Dalton
It's not
Kincaid
what they do.
turned down $1 million reportedly from Alabama to come back to Utah. Why? Because Utah said, we'll feature you.
We're going to throw it to the tight end.
And they did. And they made him a first-round pick. Like, it totally worked. It was a smart thing to do.
I would bet that Jerome Miles maybe had some, personal draw to Utah, family. I don't know, all his
from here,
situation.
yeah.
I mean, there's reasons to consider Utah. But if it came right down to it, I could never blame a wide receiver
Right.
for picking a school that will emphasize, even take USC out of it for a second, a school that will emphasize the wide receiver
Ohio
position
State.
over
Yeah.
a school that just doesn't.
Right.
So, you fans, I'm sure, are disappointed in all this stuff, but I never believed that he was going to pick Utah because why would you?
Unless there was a Godfather offer that he could not refuse financially, and that probably doesn't make sense for Utah to do that, in all honesty.
I mean, they could put 30 pounds on him and switch him positions, but I doubt he wanted to do that.
If he didn't go to Corner Canyon, would Utah have even been in his top 3
Probably
or
not.
5 or whatever?
You mean if he were from like California or somewhere else
yeah.
instead? No, no
Exactly.
way.
No, Utah wouldn't be on the radar.
But don't read too much into that because in these situations, Utah should be playing the it's home card.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Yeah,
it's easy to get to his games.
Right, your family support, all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. They should be playing that advantage, absolutely. But I don't think you can blame a young person for picking the best situation for the position that they play.
The same reason if I'm a corner,
I'm going to Utah.
I'm not picking McSofty at USC.
No. I'm not going to play for stinking. I'm just going to look bad for
No.
4 years.
You want my offense is going to score every time it touches the ball and score quickly. That means I'm playing a lot.
I'm
which
on the
actually
field
is
getting run over the whole
bad.
time. Yeah.
That's really bad. But Jalen Johnson's like, run the ball 40 times a game? Time of possession is going to be cut in half compared to Washington State under Mike Leach? Yeah.
Going to be super fresh?
They'll target my guy 4 times. I'll break them all up and I'll have a perfect PFF grade.
Right.
And I'll get drafted in the first round and I'm going to make a bunch of money. And that's exactly what has happened. He didn't get drafted in the first round, but he's one of the 5 best corners in the NFL now. Like it exactly worked. Same thing's going to happen with this kid at USC. So I honestly wish him the best. I wish all these kids the best.
The interesting wrinkle now is like, I'll pick on Bronco because he's no longer here. He used to have the whole, you're dead to me if you don't pick BYU kind of mentality about it. And he's not the only one. I mean, it was really common back in the day. In fact, Bronco took it to the next level where if you took a recruiting visit, if you committed to BYU and took a recruiting visit somewhere else, he would cut you loose.
Scholarship was gone.
I mean, it was that cut and dry. You can't do that in recruiting anymore. Where you're disappointed you didn't land this guy, but you got to be nice because there's certainly no guarantee he's going to finish his career at USC. So I actually like that wrinkle for the player that they don't get the cold shoulder, how dare you treatment. They still get treated,
I don't remember Kingsley Suamataea's recruitment. I'm sure BYU offered him. I'm sure BYU spent a bunch of time with him. After he went to Oregon and he decided this is not for me, where'd he go? Back to BYU.
Yeah, keep that
game.
relationship. Yeah, I do like that. That's a good byproduct. Not that I guess Witt would have been like, that's it, you're dead to me. I don't know if that's what he would have done. But certain coaches are. That's it, Mr. Miles. You're no longer a Utah. We've written the governor.
You're not welcome here.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake and Ben, this segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Got a couple of guests coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. We're going to talk to Ryan Breeden. He covers Oklahoma State for the Stillwater News Press. And then 11:30, we'll talk to Kevin Fielder of Every Man a Wildcat online. So,
is that true?
I don't think so, but it's catchy.
Everyone here.
It's catchy. EMAW.
If not a Wildcat, a Tom.
I had to look it up.
EMA. Is that how we're pronouncing it?
It's like a Kansas State saying. It's like in their fight song,
EMA.
I think. Yeah,
Okay.
EMA. So this website is EMA Online.
EMA Online. EMAW. But right now, caller number 12, 801-575-ZONE. You're going to get a pair of tickets to go see RSL take on Portland on September 21st. That's this Saturday. America First Field tickets will be sent electronically via SeatGeek. Ben, are you geeking out for the Jets and the Patriots tonight?
These are my teams. They've both at one point been on Hard Knocks. So, yeah, I'm totally up for it. It used to be a matchup that mattered.
Listen.
For a couple of weeks?
I find Boston fans in general pretty obnoxious. And people forget that the Patriots were terrible for 15 years. I mean, just dreadful. What, they lost to the Bears in the Super Bowl in 85 or whatever, and then we're just the dregs of the league.
They lost to the Packers, right? Didn't the Packers win one of their
that
Super Bowls against them?
Mid-90s. That was 95 or some 96, right? With Drew Bledsoe or whatever. Yeah. I wonder if the Patriots truly have to pay the piper and for how long. I mean, they were good for 20 years. The best for 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they're bad for 20. I'm hoping it's at least 20 of just garbage.
I don't think it will be. I think it's harder to be that in the NFL than it is in basketball per se or baseball. And a lot of it comes down to ownership. And say what you will about his off-the-field activities, Bob Kraft's a decent owner. He's a pretty reasonable owner.
Well, I don't know. It depends. Honestly, and this is going to always be the conversation with the old Patriots, right? Who are you giving the credit? Did he luck into the greatest quarterback ever? Did he truly let Belichick do all the personnel stuff while he took a nap in his office? Well, then I don't know if he gets a lot of credit. But that was always the problem with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, right? The owner can't, no, this was me. Why is everybody talking about Jimmy?
And owners get undue credit. You know, people in the 90s probably thought Jerry Reinsdorf was a good owner. Jerry Reinsdorf is the worst owner in the history of sports.
Lucked into Michael Jordan. I
Just
don't know about
lucked
the
into
worst
Michael Jordan.
in the history of sports. That's a tall bar, but he's pretty bad.
He's got, I mean, yeah, he's won some titles, but man, he's had 2 teams that can't do anything right for 20 years now. It's crazy. 2 teams that can't do anything right for 20 years.
Yeah, but I mean, Frank McCourt got forced to sell the Dodgers because of a messy divorce. I mean,
I'll say
pretty-
most incompetent.
that's pretty
Not
bad.
worst guy, but most incompetent. He's incompetent. But yes, the owner got credit at one point.
to lose your team because of a divorce is pretty incompetent.
Well, let's get Jerry Reinsdorf divorced.
Well, I'm
Make
sure.
him sell his
Like,
teams.
I'm pretty sure Bob Kraft got divorced.
Yeah, he's
and
fine.
he didn't get forced to lose to the Patriots. He just never mind.
Who wins a Super Bowl next? Who wins the next title? The Patriots or the Jets?
Oh, the Patriots.
Yeah,
'cause
right,
the Jets will
exactly.
never win another.
Yeah, exactly. So we can talk about the Patriots paying the piper. What did the Jets do to pay the piper? Employed Broadway Joe?
But here's the thing. I would argue your guy Woody is a worse owner than
He is.
Reinsdorf.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah. Incompetent.
Even his kid's incompetent.
Yeah.
Because he left for, he was the ambassador to the United Kingdom, I think. And wasn't it Woody Jr. who took over? Like, all right, the Jets' fortunes turn around today. No.
Did not. But this is a fun game. I'm actually going to the Bees game tonight. Taking in the ballpark one last time.
I think we're going on Saturday.
It's great. It's a part of our community. I will miss it. I'm excited to see what the new one looks like. I think there's a lot of bad discussion about Daybreak for people who haven't been down there in a long time.
What do you mean bad discussion?
Do you remember Daybreak was being built and everyone was like, "Pfft, okay, fake town, someone's building. You're going to put a fake lake down there? What are these people, morons?" And actually now everyone's like, you know what we need? More entry-level housing, more single-family homes.
I never heard that about
Oh,
Daybreak.
I heard that a lot growing
Did you?
up. Yeah, we run in different circles. And now Daybreak's like, oh yeah, we need 1,000 Daybreaks across the country.
Yeah, and by the way, putting a minor league ballpark in the middle of all those young people is
Cool.
like young families is,
Yeah.
is probably a pretty heads up
Now,
move.
is it as good for me? No, I get to the ballpark in 5 minutes from my house. So yeah, I will miss it. But I'm not the only person who lives in this state.
No, you're not.
I recognize that.
No, Daybreak. It was pretty visionary, right?
It was, yeah. And I think a lot of people thought it was too ambitious and silly. And in retrospect, it was the right move.
Well, it was all mine tailings before, so I mean that's a pretty good thing to do with a big wide swath of stuff they dug out of the mountain.
Yeah.
Good times.
And now they got a ballpark. But I'm going to miss Smith's ballpark, and so I'm going down there right now. Or not right now.
Oh,
I got another
you're
hour
going
to
to
do.
take a seat with you. I forgot. We talked about this.
Yeah, I'm bringing a ratchet set or a blowtorch.
And you're going to take that seat.
Yeah.
Brace yourselves, staff. What, are you going to come after a guy with a blowtorch? I don't think so. You're letting that guy take
I
that
have a
seat.
chair as a shield and a
Yeah,
blowtorch.
right. That guy's taking that seat. That's going out the door. Now, there may be some police officers that greet you on the other side.
I won't be the most dangerous person on 13th South and State Street when I walk out that door.
Joining us next, Ryan Breeden. He covers Oklahoma State for the Stillwater News Press. Stay tuned. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.